Good everyone. I hope you guys have an amazing day. So today I will be talking about one more boring topic. My apologies for that, but it's just a part of your certification, anyways. That's the metrics and the data that matters to the C-suite. Okay. Now you might be wondering, okay, that sounds good, but what the heck is C-suite to begin with, right? But I mean, we have to address the elephant in the room first, because obviously today's point of discussion, we will be talking about the data that's important for C-suite, why the C-suite is important for a leader of a contact center, why they have to be on their side. Now, that's all great. So, C-suite, whichever way you pronounce it, they're the most powerful and influential people in the company, right? And in case of, we can take an example of any big corporation, even for the Google or Microsoft, doesn't matter. They're pretty much, it's like the highest ranking senior executive in the organization. That's what the C suite is all about, right? Because the word C, right? If you can see the word C, that represents the word chief in many corporate title, right? Could be a CEO or could be CFO, CIO, right? So that's in simple terms. I just wanted to mention that uh, you know, the C-suite is important because in the last episode, I talked about the leadership skills that's very important for a leader of a contact center, right? So now, that's all great. I mean, you have all the great qualities, but you have to present the metrics and the data to the CISO, right? Now, when you present your case to CISO, now why do you have to present the case to CISO? Right, obviously because you need funding, right, from them, so that because you can go to them and say, hey, I have this idea which I wanted to implement, which I believe can take the organization to the next level. So C-suite obviously will be interested in looking at the metrics, right? So the main thing with the C-suite will be after. First thing they will be after the information on the latest technology. Obviously, they will be keen to know, right, how a new technology can help drive the business to the next level. So obviously, the C-suite executives will be interested into it because they might have heard about, say, for instance, hey, we are we going to make use of artificial intelligence? They might ask, right? Because I've been hearing a lot about artificial intelligence. Let's say a company like XYZ, they use AI to improve the customer service. Are we planning to do something like that, right? So the C-suite is really, the executives are really interested to have, opinion from a leader in terms of information on the latest technology. So information on tech, right? So I'll just put that way. And then they'll also say, hey, show me the reports on the customer complaints. Because obviously, if you're running a contact center, as an executive, I'll be interested to know what are my customer concerns, right? And has it been getting addressed, right? So, for instance, if a customer is ringing us like every 2 weeks to saying, "Hey, no one talks to me about it," no one. I mean, I just want to give you a very simple example, right? I because I live in New Zealand, right? I don't want to name the specific company. I sometimes buy stuff online, certain stuff. Sometimes if I wanted to buy different country food, right? So I order online, right? So I can cook it at home. There's a company there. I've ordered online. They normally don't respond back, but they were pretty uh, good in getting the stuff back, right? In delivering the stuff to you, which is great. Now, the second time I ordered, so I thought, okay, the customer was great. The customer experience was great. So obviously, I will buy the stuff from them for the second time. So I did, and based on my previous two experience, I decided to buy uh, more stuff from there. And unfortunately, they never responded back. And to me now, I got frustrated, right? I like, what the heck, and especially in a country like New Zealand, right? This kind of thing should not happen, but things can go wrong, right? Now, I emailed them. They didn't got back to me. They don't have a phone number on the website. I mean, you must be thinking, how stupid I am, right? To buying a stuff from a website doesn't have a phone number, but it's a local company. So I thought, okay, and they've already, delivered stuff to me, twice in the past. So why should it make a difference, right? Now, I've emailed them, no response. I emailed them again, no response. So I got frustrated. So the only option is just to file a complaint. Using a legal channel. Now, what that will happen is that why I'm telling this story. If you are dealing with a customer I'm not now, what going to happen is I will never recommend that company to anybody. Absolutely, they can go bankrupt. It's not my problem. But I had such a bad experience. So for me, it's like it's an S company to deal with. So imagine you're running a contact center, right? And you buy you sell something and you give service to a customer. Now, your customer is extremely pissed off, based on your previous interaction with them, and they are expecting a better solution next time, and you still tend to ignore it. The word of mouth can make a lot of damage to a company reputation. So, as a C-suite, as an executive, I'm interested to know, the reports on the time and complaints from a customer, right? So, which is extremely important if you're running a contact center. Okay, so say complaints from customer reports, right? And another thing I'll be interested in to know the financial around the sales and revenue. So obviously that's very important, right? We are not here for a charity because it's not a non-profit. So I mean, non-profit is a different story, but I'm not going to talk about that. But I'm talking about a regular business, right? So financials around sales and revenue, which is very important. Sorry, I'm spelling. Come on, what the? Sorry, sorry for my language. Sometimes, I've installed Grammarly, so it does funny things at times. So my apologies for that. Okay, now I'm also interested in, the earnings before tax because as an executive, I'm interested in, earnings before tax. Right, this is important for me as well. Right. Now, these things are important for as a metrics. If you are a leader of a contact center, you need to take this stuff to the executive CEO who are right. So that's very important. Now, if I'm a CEO, right, I will really expect you as a leader to translate your KPIs into business value, right? You might have, say, for instance, different ideas, right? And you might have set in KPIs with your agents. Now, I wanted to see that, converting them into business values. For instance, okay, it's one of your KPIs, right, to send out the CSAT to a customer, okay? Now, the CSAT makes a lot of difference. Okay. Now, let's say, one of the customer. So this is a CSAT. Blah blah blah. With your questions there, and overall score here. Let's say out of 5. Okay. Customer scored you 1. Okay. And there's another CSAT score. Which you send it to customer again, and they score you 0. Okay. Now, as a leader, so if your KPI, if CSAT is a part of a KPI, now you have to, tell me how this is going to address the business value. Because looking at it, to me, seems to me that we are going to lose our customer, and it's going to be a financial hit because the CSAT is coming out to be as an unsatisfactory one. Means, seem to me as an executive, looks like the customers are dissatisfied and they don't want it to be associated with our brand, right? Whereas if you have a CSAT score, say you're getting 5 out of 5, right? Let's say you got a 10 CSAT score. Dot, 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 dot. So my apologies for my fantastic drawing. That was a sarcastic comment. Sorry. Um, so if you get 5 out of 5, right? CSAT score. I mean, just for the sake of argument, as I said, we're measuring from 5. You can pretty much say one way or another, customers are happy with the way the things are being done, and they are happy with the customer response time. They're happy with the way you're handling the calls. They're happy with the way you handling the customer queries. So, and we are most certain that customer will stay us with long time. So that's why customer retention plan is very important from a business perspective. Obviously staff retention plan is important as well, but just since we are looking at only from a customer perspective, um, so let's mention something called um, customer retention. Okay. customer retention. So as a CEO of a company, right? Say for instance, I'm a member of CSU, right? Let's say for you know, so you as a leader comes to me, right, and say, look, I need more money for investment. So I will ask you all the metrics, right? So if your metric shows that, hey, the customer is extremely dissatisfied, I will not give you money for. You have to tell me why your customers are dissatisfied in the first place, right? As a CEO, as a senior executive, it's a concerning sign for me, right? And a CEO don't have time for nitty gritty kind of stuff. CEO is not interested. Oh, that developer wrote that piece of a code which broke the system. I'm not interested. What I'm interested is that how much your staff, I go to my leader, I go to my leadership team, say how much your team is contributing to towards our customer success. That's all I'm interested into, and show me the metrics. I don't care that that line of a code is breaking the chains. That's the problem for the leaders to deal with it. That's the problem of the director of development to deal with it, right? It's not the problem of CEO. CEO can't look at the nitty gritty stuff. CEO is interested in how we can add value to your customer. Show me the matrix, show me the KPIs, and how it can drive our business. Right? That's the response. That CEO is more interested into. Show me the revenue generator. Right? Show me how every department is. The amount of profit we are making, where we are making a loss. Right? I mean, you will really barely see, unless it's a startup, it's a different story. But if it's a big corporation like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, do you really think that the CEO will be interested? Hey, show me that, the Facebook line of a code, the Python line of a code, right? Why the variable naming is not correct. CEO don't care. I mean, people assume that they do, but because you got a lot of stuff to do, you have to understand that, right? I mean, it's a huge responsibility. If things go wrong, and the CEO will be responsible, they have to answer the board of directors, right? What the heck is going on, right? And the investors as well. So yeah, you have to look at the bigger picture. So if you need the support of your C-suite guys, right? You have to explain to your C-suite in form of matrix, in form of numbers, right? Like, what are you doing? And say, for instance, if you go to, say, for instance, I'll give you an example. Okay, I'm a leader of a contact center. I wanted, say, $10 million investment from my CEO. I want the money to be routed to our department. Now, CEO will ask why. So I can say, look, other companies are having an edge because they're using artificial intelligence. So I wanted to implement an AI-based solution. And so AI-based solution, so I can say the initial investment will be, say, $10 million, right? 10 mil, okay? And then say in 2 years' time, the return of investment will be, say, uh, will be like 12 million. So, okay, so we're going to make 2 million profit. And then in 5 years investment time, 5 years time, the return on investment will be, say, 60 million, right? So something like that. So I mean, you don't have to be accurate, but if you measure this information, in terms of numbers and can present that to the CEO, CEO will be more likely uh, to to look at it in a more serious way, rather than saying, "Hey, I wanted to invest in artificial intelligence, but I have no numbers to back it up." Well, I will say, go and back it up with the numbers and bring it to me, right? I mean, I can't give you $10 million just because you have an idea. I wanted to know how it's gonna help our customer, how it's gonna put us, better in the market in terms of competition. What kind of return of investment we can expect over the course of, say, 5 years. And the most important thing, have you thought about the things which can go wrong, right? So, and what about the customer adoption rate, right? I mean, it's easy to propose a technology. Are customer willing to be part of it, right? A lot of things that matters, okay? And most of the companies do the mistake. They say, okay, I mean, some people quote Steve Jobs, right? Steve Jobs always says, I mean, this is not what I'm saying that Steve Jobs has said, but I heard people mostly quoting, customer don't know what they want. I mean, that's partially true because some customers do know what they want. So we have to give the respect to the customer. At the end of the day, right? The business is run by customers. They're paying for people's salary. They're paying for the product. So we need to have the trust building relationship with the customer. And so to do that, these things forms a part of the customer, not from a part of your return of investment action. Now, uh, you also need to back up with the data. Okay. So when I talk about the data, right, what I normally meant by data is like how much money you have spent on the training. Okay, so training budget. Okay, and customer engagement budget. Okay, now why I'm talking about this kind of things, right? So for instance, like I said, if you wanted to roll out an artificial intelligence based product, obviously your staff needs to be trained, okay? Because customer will call and say, hey, uh, that XYZ component is kind of jittery, it just acts with different ways, it's showing me different numbers. If I modify this flag, it does that. If you as an agent have no clue what that person is talking about, it kind of caused an embarrassment, right? And the customer will get extremely pissed. And the last thing you want, the customer goes to social media and say, "Hey, this customer support team has no idea what they're doing," right? You can imagine how much damage they can do to your brand, right? So you have to put this as a form of a matrix to your, or in the form of a data, like, hey, this much money we need for training, this much money we need for customer engagement. Obviously, we have to train the customer, right? Need to do a webinar, or kind of a podcast and kind of stuff, right? These kind of investment we have to make. So, and we might have to organize conferences. So, as a CEO, right, I'm interested to see this kind of information. Okay. And so another thing I also like, uh, you know, if you're a leader, right, of a contact center, sometimes if you go to a, say, internal executive team for any suggestion, they might be biased on certain things, right? They will say, hey, we are doing great, we have no problem. So that's why it's always sometimes reach out to an external group for advice. There was a book, right? I've read like 5, 6 years ago. It's by a guy who sold his company to Warren Buffett. That you might have heard about, the Berkshire Hathaway, right? So when he sold the company, so he wrote a book. I think his name was Bernard C or something. I don't remember exactly his name. My apologies, correct me if I'm wrong. So it's like what I've learned when I sold to Warren Buffett. He talks about importance of having a focus group. Focus group is like, where customer can express their opinion. You're actually getting a feedback from an external entity rather than relying on an internal entity for opinion. Sometimes it makes a lot of difference if you're getting a feedback from someone who never used your product, who's using it for the first time, right? Could be a customer, right? To say, hey, I'm just reaching out to see how you're doing. Are you finding it difficult to use our product? Are you finding it difficult to get hold of our customer support team? Are you finding it very difficult to get your issues resolved? So based on that, we can actually build a great team. So that kind of information as a CEO will be I'll be very interested to know. So this kind of information, it's really gold, because in today's time, data is gold, right? Or platinum, whatever the way you use it, whichever metal you consider. It's more important. And also the most important thing is, right, you have to have a great communication skill, um, you know in in today's time, right? If you're a leader of a contact center, you have to bring the different team together. Okay, now why a great communication skill is important? Sometimes, right, if you wanted to extend your business, right, say for instance, like I gave an example of artificial intelligence, right? Your company decides to use an AI product for a contact center. Now you are going to sign up with a vendor. Okay, so vendor. Now, as a leader of a company, right? So you're a leader or head of the contact center. You have to be very transparent with the vendor, right? And the kind of vendor you choose, because you have to ask few questions like, what happens if things goes wrong? Will vendor responsible to take the responsibility, or how responsive the vendors are? Okay. So for instance, will vendor will assist you in that transformation journey? Okay. And sometimes, the cheaper option is not always the optimum option. You have to understand that, right? You might say, okay, it might save you a few dollars or a few $1,000s, but in the long run, if you have a pathetic customer support from a vendor, so that cheaper option can prove to be extremely expensive because in terms of customer loss. Remember one thing, okay? A long-term customer who's loyal to your brand will obviously will gonna buy more stuff in the long run, and they will spread awareness about your company to other people, right? And say, for instance, some of the liquor brand, like say, for instance, I mean, I probably believe that you might say, um, which brand shall we take? Let's take up a brand which works for everyone, right? Because I don't want to mention alcohol because not everyone drinks, right? So let's take a brand about Disney brand, right? Disney makes a pretty amazing movies, right? Let's say Frozen movie, right? Very popular movie among kids, right? So if Disney decides to do an amazing stuff in making movies, right? Obviously, people will recommend, hey, the Frozen movie is great. Frozen movie is great. If they started doing things which pisses off the customer, right, the word of mouth will actually makes a lot of damage to your brand, right? And the same goes with every other products you use, right? So, for instance, the MacBook, right? It's pretty amazing book in the sense, right? Laptop, right? So now people are buying it in spite of being expensive because of its quality, right? So if customers started spilling out the beans saying, "Hey, the quality sucks," you think that Apple can make a profit? Absolutely not. So, and Apple works with different vendors to do different things, right? And so the same go. It's all about user experience at the end of the day, right? In simple nutshell. I mean, we talked about all of these things. At the end of the day, right? If you ask me in a nutshell, what is all about user experience and how good of a customer experience you can offer to a customer. That's all it is, right? At the end of the day, that's in simple terms. That's all we are talking about. How good of a. The reason why I elaborated because if you're running a company or if you're a head of a department, you might have to take care of different things, right? So, I do understand that this can be a bit boring for people who are extremely technical, but I'm a technical person, right? At the end of the day, I talk in terms of technology. I mean, I'm not a extremely brilliant functional guy. I mean, functional part is great. If you're an architect, you need to have both sides, right? Yes, my preference is always towards technology. I'm a technology guy. You can ask me anything about the code. I'm very, very comfortable in that language, or in terms of architecture, I'm extremely comfortable. But that being said, right, these things are important for a business to know, right? So that's the reason why I think the Salesforce included this module as a part of the certification. So this is pretty much I wanted to cover in today's episode. So this marks the end of our contact center leadership kind of things. I understand that it could be boring for some, but it's a necessary evil. You have to deal with it, right? So that being said, I hope you guys have an amazing Saturday wherever you are. Adios.